I use the word sparingly. There are certain misconceptions around love because there are so many different types of love. It's sometimes hard to get away from the idea that love is some kind of wanting. I love this. And in the Spanish language, the usual expression for I love you means I want you. And that's very true in romantic love. You want the other person. And as, don't remember who said it, in true love, you want the other person's good. In romantic love, you want the other person. And so other languages have different words for love to distinguish between the emotional wanting and something deeper, agape, metta, and so on. The Dalai Lama says, my religion is kindness. He uses that word, kindness. So these words point to something within you, an essence from where you perceive and interact with the outside world in a very different way from the usual mentalized, conceptualized perception of reality around you, including other human beings. The usual way to relate for people who have not awakened to that deeper level that I often call essence, or your essence identity, the usual way is to relate to other human beings through mental concepts or judgments. They become the veil that comes in between you and your perception of reality. And awakening is to become free of the compulsion to judge continuously, to interpret continuously, to label and name continuously what's around you and whoever you are with. And when that compulsion to label everything mentally, the conceptualized reality, when that subsides, and that subsides when presence arises, then you sense something in whatever you perceive that is a kind of recognition, whether it's a human being or whether it's any other being, natural, a tree or an animal. You recognize something in the other that before, when you were naming and labeling, you couldn't. When you were naming and labeling, the other was always the other. And nature also was conceptualized. Especially human beings become conceptualized in the other. In the egoic state, the ego actually emphasizes the otherness of others by continuously criticizing, judging, have opinions, and mistaking every viewpoint for the truth. Every thought that comes in, that's how he is, that's how she is. And so there can be no love there, although that egoic entity sometimes talks about love, or it says, You need to love your neighbor as yourself, it says. I'm trying very hard. And that phrase, of course, comes from Jesus, who said, love your neighbor as yourself, which really means recognize your neighbor, the other, as yourself. And that recognition, that sensing, when you look at another human being in the spaciousness of just this. That's sometimes call it the formless dimension. What you're looking at is form. What you're looking at is the physical body, and also what you are perceiving is the mental form, the psychological form of that person. If you go beyond form, what you perceive in the other, you sense through your own presence, the presence of the other, that which cannot be seen. It's the essence of everything. If you have we have a little dog that's, at the moment we think, oh, hope he'll survive, she'll survive, she has a heart disease. When this dog dies, hopefully not for a while, all you're left with is the fur and what's behind the fur, the bones and the intestines and so on. The essence is no longer there. The essence of that being is no longer there. But when you look at the live dog, you can sense an essence of beingness, of the beingness in the other. Sometimes it's easier with animals than with humans, because what you have with humans is a lot of mental identifications. So you sense the beingness because you sense your own beingness, and that's the heart sometimes. I don't use that very often, but that you could call that perceiving from the heart. You use the word more often. Perceiving from the heart is to perceive from the beingness. And then you sense the beingness of the other. And that recognition is the recognition of oneness, and that's love. Love is sensing that you share the consciousness. Because what you love in the other ultimately is the consciousness. You don't love, it's nice to touch the fur of the dog or to touch another human being, to touch the skin, but ultimately what you love in the other is something that you cannot perceive, that is beyond the senses, you cannot mentalize. So to perceive through that space of love is to be free of the compulsion to mentalize and conceptualize. And that in practical terms it looks like this. I'm looking at Ram Dass. Without conceptualization, if I conceptualize, I have some image. I say, oh, here's the famous guru. He wrote that book, or I have whatever concepts I have. Can I look at him without any concepts? And there's suddenly a meeting in stillness, because that's really what it is. When you look at something without naming it, you look through the stillness. And I'm inviting, I know he's already in stillness, and I'm inviting everybody here at this very moment to perceive and look the totality of this room, the environment, whatever is around us, not through any naming, but through simple, the alert space of stillness. Be the space of stillness, just this. And then you perceive lovingly. Then there is no other anymore. The other only appears the moment you conceptualize. And so that's how stillness and love are related, very closely. And the now, of course, is all part of it. The stillness is the essence of now. And so love arises. Our destiny is to live in that way as our normal state of consciousness. And then, of course, the world would become transformed if enough humans live in that space we'll come back to that. Because this basically, we're always talking about the one, we're always pointing to the one essential truth, which is the truth of who you are.
I would like to speak that